The hidden story behind the first humans. A tale of survival, betrayal, and the secret that changed everything. What if everything you thought you knew about human origins was a carefully constructed lie? What if the story of our first ancestors wasn't one of gradual evolution and peaceful development, but rather a dark tale of environmental catastrophe, desperate survival, and a genetic gamble that nearly wiped out our entire species before it even began? Deep in the archives of paleogenetic labs across the globe, scientists have been quietly piecing together evidence that challenges everything we've been taught about early humanity. The official narrative speaks of a steady march from ape to human, of tool-making and fire discovery, of gradual migration out of Africa. But the real story, the one hidden in our DNA and buried in volcanic ash, tells a far more harrowing tale. The great dying nobody talks about. Around 70,000 years ago, something catastrophic happened to our species. Not the slow burn of climate change or the gradual pressure of predation, but an event so devastating that it reduced the entire human population to fewer than 10,000 individuals. To put this in perspective, there were likely more people in a single Roman legion than the total number of humans alive on Earth at that moment. The culprit? Mount Toba, a supervolcano in what is now Indonesia, erupted with the force of several million atomic bombs. The explosion was so massive that it plunged the entire planet into a volcanic winter that lasted 6 years. Temperatures dropped by 3 to 5 degrees Celsius globally, and in some regions, they plummeted by as much as 15 degrees. Imagine trying to survive an ice age that arrived overnight, with no warning, no preparation, and no understanding of what was happening. But here's where the story gets truly fascinating. Not all humans experience this catastrophe the same way. Recent genetic analysis has revealed that our ancestors didn't just passively endure this crisis. They made choices that would fundamentally alter the trajectory of human evolution. The secret alliance that saved us. Hidden within our genetic code lies evidence of something extraordinary: intentional interbreeding with other human species during this crisis period. While popular science often portrays early humans as isolated tribes slowly evolving in parallel, the DNA evidence tells a different story. Our Homo sapiens ancestors actively sought out and mated with Neanderthals, Denisovans, and possibly other archaic human species we haven't even discovered yet. This wasn't random mixing. It was a desperate survival strategy. Each human subspecies had evolved specific adaptations to their environments. Neanderthals possessed superior cold weather physiology and robust immune systems. Denisovans had high-altitude adaptations that allowed them to thrive in thin air, and various African populations had developed resistance to tropical diseases. By deliberately interbreeding during the Toba crisis, our ancestors created hybrid offspring who combined the survival advantages of multiple human lineages. The genetic evidence is startling. Every non-African person alive today carries 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA. But the distribution isn't random. The genes we inherited are overwhelmingly related to immune function, skin and hair traits for cold climates, and metabolic adaptations for different diets. Our ancestors didn't just mate with other human species, they strategically acquired their survival traits, the forbidden technology. But the interbreeding wasn't the only secret weapon our ancestors employed. Archaeological evidence from this period reveals something that mainstream archaeology has been reluctant to discuss. Early humans possessed technological capabilities far beyond what we've traditionally attributed to them. In South Africa's Blombos Cave, researchers have discovered 70,000-year-old artifacts that suggest our ancestors had developed complex symbolic thinking, advanced tool-making techniques, and possibly even early forms of written communication. Carved ochre pieces display geometric patterns that appear to be early mathematical concepts or even proto-writing systems. These were not primitive scratching. They represent abstract thinking of a sophistication we didn't believe possible for humans of that era. More intriguingly, isotope analysis of tools from this period shows that early humans were engaging in long-distance trade networks spanning thousands of kilometers. Obsidian tools found in East Africa originated from volcanic sources over 1,000 miles away. This suggests not just trade, but sophisticated navigation, resource mapping, and social organization across vast distances, all during what should have been humanity's darkest hour. The genetic time bomb. Perhaps the most shocking revelation emerging from recent genetic studies is evidence that our ancestors may have deliberately manipulated their own evolution through selective breeding practices. Analysis of mitochondrial DNA shows patterns that are statistically impossible without intentional genetic selection. During the post-Toba recovery period, certain maternal lineages appear to have been systematically favored over others. The surviving genetic lines show enhanced cognitive abilities, improved disease resistance, and superior adaptability to environmental stress. This wasn't natural selection. It was artificial selection, practiced by humans on themselves. Ancient DNA from burial sites reveals that communities during this period had complex rules about who could mate with whom, based on observable traits that we now know correspond to specific genetic advantages. They were practicing eugenics thousands of years before the concept was formally articulated, and they were doing it to save their species. The cover-up that lasted millennia. Why has this story remained hidden for so long? The answer lies in a combination of scientific conservatism, technological limitations, and perhaps something more troubling, institutional reluctance to acknowledge that our ancestors were far more sophisticated than we've been willing to admit. For decades, the archaeological establishment maintained that complex symbolic thinking and advanced technology didn't emerge until around 40,000 years ago, conveniently after the Toba catastrophe. This narrative supported theories of gradual, peaceful human development and avoided uncomfortable questions about genetic manipulation and survival strategies that modern sensibilities find disturbing. But new DNA sequencing technologies, improved dating methods, and a new generation of researchers willing to challenge established narratives have begun to unravel this comfortable fiction. The evidence is now overwhelming. Our ancestors weren't primitive survivors stumbling through a hostile world. They were sophisticated genetic engineers, master strategists, and technological innovators who made conscious choices that determined the future of human evolution. The legacy we never knew we inherited today as we stand on the brink of our own technological revolution in genetic engineering and artificial intelligence. Perhaps it's time to acknowledge that we're not the first generation of humans to face existential challenges through technological innovation. Our ancestors faced the ultimate survival crisis and emerged not just intact, but fundamentally transformed. Every time you recover from an illness, adapt to a new environment, or solve a complex problem, you're drawing on genetic and cognitive resources that were forged in the crucible of the Toba catastrophe. The hidden story of the first humans isn't just ancient history, it's the foundation of everything we are and everything we might become. The question that remains is this: if our ancestors could engineer their own survival through such desperate measures, what are we willing to do to ensure our species' future? The tools have changed, but the stakes remain the same, and the choices we make today will echo through the genetic legacy we leave for generations yet to come.